So now we're going to be making some agar, or prepping some agar. Here I've got a 250 ml blue capped bottle, 2 different size beakers, some malt extract syrup, some agar, and some activated charcoal. There are many different recipes that you can do. This is the one that we have available at the lab, and also it's one of the most widely used recipes. It's always best to add your ingredients to a container on the scale and then add it to the container that you're going to be mixing in. You might be inclined to add all the ingredients on top of each other, but if you accidentally add too much of something, it's very difficult to take it out afterwards. So this is the best method. I'm going to begin with adding the agar to this size beaker. So I'm going to add 5 grams for 200 ml of water. Now this may vary depending on the type of agar you're using. Some agar may be a little bit weaker than others. We found that this recipe works best for the type of agar that we have here in the lab. I'm then going to add the activated charcoal. In this case, I'm going to be adding 0.5 grams to the beaker. And then finally, I'm going to be adding the malt extract, which is very gooey. The activated charcoal is a great addition because it makes these beautiful black agar plates, which is an amazing contrast for the white mycelium, but it also helps fight off any unwanted contamination, which we can often find in our agar plates. Okay, so I know that roughly 1 spoon of this is 4 grams of malt extract syrup. You can actually purchase powdered malt extract, which would be a lot easier, but we have quite a lot of this, and it's easy to buy in your health food stores. As you can see, nice and gooey. Because we're using the gooey version, I'm going to actually add the distilled water first. So here I'm adding 200 ml of distilled water. And this is just going to help remove the malt extract from the spoon. Okay, so we've got 4 grams of malt extract on the spoon. Again, you can kind of be a little bit, you don't have to be too accurate with the amount of malt extract that you're using. It's 4 grams is the ideal, but again, if you put a little bit more, a little bit less, it's not going to change much. Although if you do put too much, then you might have an excess of sugars, which may lead to more contamination, which is what we don't want. So giving it a nice little mix. Make sure it's off the spoon. I actually have a little tool here that helps me. And like I said before, there's many different types of recipes that you can use. You can use potatoes, which is a nice easy one for home prep. So you can refer to the booklet for some other recipes. There will be a list of different ingredients which may be easier to find wherever you are located in the world. Okay, so it's nicely mixed up. And now I'm going to add that to my blue capped bottle. So just bear in mind, just another note, the water is room temperature. You can also heat it up a little bit, but if you heat it up too much, then you're going to start to cook the agar. So then I just give it a little shake, close the bottle nice and tight, give it a little shake, make sure the ingredients are nice and mixed up here, and then we're going to pressure cook it. So, come with me. As we've mentioned before, when putting stuff in the pressure cooker, we have to make sure that it's not completely closed, otherwise it might explode or implode. So we just give it a little twist, make sure it's still a little bit open, and then we place it inside the pressure cooker. In this particular type of pressure cooker, we are able to maintain quite a low amount of water inside because it doesn't release that much steam. But in other pressure cookers, you may need to add more water depending on the length of time that your material is going to be inside. So because of the type of pressure cooker this is, we're going to double the amount of time that you would usually need the agar to be cooking for. So usually it's about 15 to 20 minutes. I'm actually going to put it on for 30 minutes because this pressure cooker does not get up to 15 psi. Right, so this is the agar that I prepared earlier, taken out of the pressure cooker. I've allowed it to cool. Basically, we want it to be cool enough so we're actually able to hold it. I'd say this is still a little bit hot, but I'm going to do it anyways. Okay, so it's kind of a fine line. We don't want it to be too cool because then the agar is going to start setting. But we also don't want it to be too hot, otherwise we'll burn ourselves. So one little trick is taking a beaker, putting some cold water, and then placing the jar inside for just a little bit to speeden up, if that's a word, speeden up the cooling process. Okay. You can leave this in for a minute or so and then remove, and it should have cooled down enough to touch. Okay, we want to make sure that it's nice, and we don't want to make any bubbles, so try not to shake it, but we just want to see that it's not clumping. Excellent. Okay, so it's ready for pouring. So these are plastic petris. This is just what we have available today, so that's why I'm doing it. But again, you can have sterilizable plastic petri dishes. You can use glass petri dishes, which are probably the most sustainable. Right, I'm ready. My surface is nice and clean. I'm gonna create my sterile workstation with my Bunsen burner. Give myself another little spray of alcohol, rub everything in, and I'm going to pour. So really you want to just be as comfortable as possible here, so whatever kind of works for you, you want to try and find your flow. I like to have my petris on the left and my agar on the right. So I'm going to open up the lid, keeping the top of the bottle close to the flame, and then trying to maintain within the 10 centimeter radius from the flame. Okay, so I'm going to pour gently, bringing the bottle top back to the flame. Now some people do this from the bottom up. I've always done it from the top down, which just feels more natural to me, but again, experiment, have a little play, see what works for you. Now the reason why we stack the plates on top of each other, you don't have to do this, but we find it helps to minimize the condensation of the plates, which is really what we want to try and avoid, because if there's condensation on the plates, then that is opportunities for unwanted microbes to start growing within your plates. Okay, now we want to just set these plates aside and allow them to cool. Now remember, with agar, Agar is a jelly-like medium. Once they've cooled, we just want to flip them over. Make sure they're cooled down. Flip them over to avoid the condensation falling onto your beautiful, clean, fresh agar.